Things from the Idiot Box, where we explore the good, the bad, and the wacky in television. Pete and Mary Alice from the Electric Grandmother, DC cult sensations, and the inventors of the musical genre sitcom core join us on GFib. They are behind hits like Letting Go of the Fresh Prince, which leads us to today's discussion, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Hi, Pete and Mary Alice.
Hi,
Hi,
Allison.
thank you for calling it a hit. I
Of
think
course.
I think we performed it maybe 5 times, but
I did a deep dive on your
oh,
discography
did you?
behind it.
Well, yeah, that's I always thought that one was maybe a little underappreciated, but it is what it is. So that's what we're here to set it right.
Not everybody overthinks TV as much as the three of us do. So,
They should.
And The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, why did you want to discuss it? We've established when you came on for Full House that you love 90s sitcoms. So we landed on Fresh Prince. Is there any particular
Mm,
does it hold, is it special to you in some way?
it's- yeah, well, I mean, it's one of my favorite shows ever. Um, it's just especially I think, granted, I haven't seen every TV sitcom that's out there, but from what I've
Yeah.
observed, it has the best first season of any sitcom ever. Like the writing, Susan and Andy Borowitz writing, just the introduction and of the characters, like sort of uh, coming to their own, like creating their identities. It's
Right.
just it's just made for great TV, and it's just so funny. And there's not a single miss as far as I know on the first season, and especially like again, it started off. I feel like three of the my top five episodes are like in the first seven. You know, like
Episodes of this show.
it's just gangbusters. Yeah.
Yeah. The pilot, which is one of the shows I watched prior to doing this, I had seen probably all of the episodes before when it was on Nick at Night, and it was one of those shows I'd throw on, I'd fall asleep, and that would be the end of it. But now rewatching it, I'm like, oh, okay. I realized that I didn't really watch the last three seasons, so 4, 5, and 6, which is why it took me a very long time to realize there are two amphibs.
Mm.
Because when you're only watching the first three seasons, you don't get into that.
Yeah. I mean, we're of the mind that, I mean, it's always awkward when you change characters, and we thought the first
Yes.
Vivian was great, and the second one was, not so great, manageable, but
I feel like the second Aunt Vivian went from having a very strong female lead uh role model, career woman, loving mother and everything like that, to
Mhm.
like a very gender stereotyped, like
Yes.
denial of sex, like weak, it just it was disappointing, I think, in a lot of ways. And I I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, sweetie, like it was almost intentional, because like there was a lot of politicking behind the scenes that kind of like led
Yes.
to the ousting of the first Vivian, and then the
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I've always been unclear about exactly what happened, but I know Will Smith wanted her out, and I know they got in a lot of disagreements, and um, yeah, following on what you said as far as like the character changing, I think it was probably intentional, and like I feel like um
Yeah.
the there was more of an emphasis on like conservatism as their identity, as opposed to just sort of like in the beginning it's like, well, we're rich, and yeah, we vote Republican, but we've also done these things like fought cases, civil rights cases and stuff like that, and all that kind of went by the wayside.
Right.
The series went on.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And the first Vivian was Janet Hubert Witten. The second one was Daphne Maxwell Reed.
Right.
mhm.
and they were on each 3 seasons. And the first 3 seasons, I agree with you, are much stronger than the other ones, which may be why I've seen them and didn't really remember them. Because once you get into college and the peacocks, you've lost me.
The
That's when
peacock.
the show goes off the rails.
Yeah.
You like the peacock ones.
The
Yeah.
peacock ones are pretty funny.
They're,
They have their own charm, but it's almost like a different show.
yeah.
Yes.
There's value to those. There's value to those episodes, but they,
The ones with Tyra Banks kind of crack me up, and I can't even tell you why exactly.
Is
yeah, they're decent.
Yeah,
They're better. Like if you put the second half of Fresh Prince up against a show I don't like, that's still better.
true. Yeah.
right. And you were talking about how strong the characters are, so I wanna go back to the pilot episode
Hmm.
because that tells you right away who these characters are.
Right.
It's the one where you hear most of the theme song. There are, I believe, 2 verses cut out of it, but it gives you most of the story. And then you cut to him at the Bankses,
Knocking on the
and
door.
yes, and they're all just like, "Okay, this is your cousin Will," and not really
Yeah.
sure what to do with
Well,
them.
and what's interesting is that I found interesting the first one he meets is Jeffrey and he mistakes him for
Yes.
Uncle Phil. So like initially they give off the impression, the pilot, that they don't really know anything about each other. But later in the series it's implied like, oh yeah, they used to come visit, especially like
Yeah.
I think about the episode where near the end of the first Vivian era, where they did the cleanup after the riots in LA, and like uh they were saying, yeah, I used to love coming out here to visit you guys, and it's like, wait, I thought you didn't know who they were.
Yeah, and then they had a flashback sequence, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, with
yeah.
like little baby Hillary before they were rich, which was kind of funny that she was like, so the Hillary Banks character in that flashback, the Bankses were not yet wealthy and they were living in a small apartment in downtown LA. And um, the Hillary Banks character was the same. Like she was still like, very bougie and snobby and, critical of her surroundings and everything, even though like they weren't rich yet. So that was
And
kind of cute.
shout out to Adam Brodsky here. I said riots in LA. I should say the LA Rebellion
Rebellion,
with
yes,
73
very
and
good.
14 last year. They had a great season. That's the long story. If
He'll
Adam,
know.
you'll understand. You see.
Okay. Adam, you have my number. Please explain. Um, so with that first episode, what stands out to me is that Uncle Phil is dealing with his idiot nephew who um is wearing the suit but also wearing his cap and he's wearing everything wrong.
Color
At
bund over
Cover
the chest. Yeah, yeah.
yes.
And First Wind
At,
and Mire, or Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah.
That's an excellent cut. We say that a lot. We quote a lot of the first season Fresh Prince.
or yeah, and Ashley Banks is saying grace for that
Yeah.
first episode, which I don't remember all of it, but it ends with "Thank you God for this stupid food," and everyone's just
Yeah.
like,
Hey there, God. My name is Ashley Banks. My family and I have to give you
"Would like to
something.
give thanks,
For this food is all swallowed and
swallowed and
chewed.
chewed.
Thank you,
Thank you
God.
God for this stupid food."
Yeah, no, it's classic. I remember when it first aired. I think it was like 11 or so. I remember, again, the hype was big, and like it was one of those shows that my mom at first was like, "You can't watch this," but then sort of I think Will's charm won her over, and um uh but I forgot where I was going with that. But anyway, you were saying about
There's
the first episode.
but there's also nothing in that series where I'd go, "Oh, this series is problematic." So
Except for
not
the one where Trump shows up.
well, yes, and that's hindsight. Um, but with the first episode, Uncle Phil put Will in his place when he's like, "You have a poster of Malcolm X on your wall. I heard the brother speak."
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And Will is just like, "Oh, I completely misread you."
Yeah, well, they misread each other because then he
Yeah.
plays the piano at the end.
Mhm.
I'm ashamed to say I can't think of what that song is called. The classical music he's playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so it has that corny ending. It's like maybe I misjudged Will. Yeah.
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 But no, I always thought that was cool. Like the sort of the storylines that they explored in the first season about, like Philip and Vivian were at the forefront of the civil rights movement.
Yes.
You know, like they knew Aldous Cleaver and Angela Davis, and that you find that out via that episode where their activist friend comes back. And but yeah, I always appreciate that aspect of it. And it's I guess you can't keep doing the same thing forever, so
No.
season 6 is kind of out the door.
And then so when I rather than rewatching the whole series because there's so much to it, I tried to hit the high points. So the other ones that I watched were when Trevor
Love Trevor.
enters the picture and tries to propose to Hillary, and it does not go very well.
and that
Hillary.
and that's new Vivian, so
Yeah,
remember the value to those later 3 seasons.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes, so no, I mean, yeah, we shouldn't undersell the last 3 seasons. The Trevor and Hillary storyline was very funny.
right. I think it could be that I didn't pay attention to Aunt Viv in those seasons because she doesn't do much in those seasons.
Yeah.
Right.
Like when she shows up, it's just a woman standing there half the time.
Well, in the first part of the series, there was a lot of focus on Aunt Vivian's education and her being a college professor, and they mentioned it like once, I think, in the final 3 seasons. Like
Yeah,
in the episode where like Ashley wants to go to public school, she's like, "I'm a college professor," and you never asked my opinion. I was like, "Whoa, where did that come from?" Because like you kind of forget by then, because she's
yeah.
kind of
I think I may have thought it was some other character or something at some point until I'm like, oh wait, that's supposed to be Aunt Viv.
and yeah, and they and they break the fourth wall in some of those early episodes.
Yes.
Uh, like they
NBC
had to
trying.
say there's something different about you. Ever since you had that baby, Miss Banks, there's something different about you. And Will looks at the camera, and then on season 5, they're like, "Who's playing the mom this year?"
Yeah, yeah,
And then
that's
baby Nikki is,
bigger.
yeah,
Yeah.
much bigger.
Yeah. Now I'm questioning because had to have figured it out at some point and then just forgot because I was groggy and I was only watching this half asleep.
We have you questioning your sanity.
We could have made this whole thing up.
Yeah, there was no second Aunt Viv.
And so yeah, there are some good moments. Um, I actually would have liked to see Trevor stick around longer, but also we wouldn't have gotten that moment of him bungee jumping, trying to propose, and then everyone's like, "That's not supposed to happen." And then it takes a while for Hillary to understand, "Oh, he's supposed to bounce back up."
That that's another thing about the characteristic about the second half of the series that is more slapsticky. You would never have seen that in the first half, where they
No.
that's dark comedy. Like this guy plunks to his death and everyone's like laughing and
Yes.
yeah. So
Yeah, and then she brings him home, and they're like, "He was not cremated."
yeah.
Yeah. Ew. Yeah. She's wearing her wedding dress, but it's dyed black. It's so weird. It's
Yeah.
Oh, and Jeffrey's like, "I'll escort the gentleman out."
Yeah.
Okay.
Ash is playing with the yo-yo and then it hits the ground. Good stuff. It's good. The second half was like,
Yeah.
get me all into the mood of watching the second half on series.
And how do you feel about Nikki? Because the Nikki episodes, I didn't watch any that had him as a prominent role. I know that his full name is after all of the it's Boys
Guys,
to Men,
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
but that character doesn't really make sense to me. It's kind of like when Roseanne decided we're gonna have a child, and it's like, why do you
Well,
have?
it's like any series that adds the little kid because they need a little kid, like our friend Brian Bonsall from Family Ties played Andrew. Uh and I mean, I don't know, there's like you said, Roseanne, what else?
Kind of famously Married with Children, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Seven.
yeah. And it's interesting the timing of that, because one thing that always bothers me about the intervening years, so after the first three seasons, but before Nikki becomes, well, maybe that's just season five, where
Where
they're season four rather, they're trying to like infantilize Ashley a little bit, where
Yeah.
she does things like talk about her Barbies and stuff, but she's clearly like becoming a teenager, and it makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, we always joke like she's in a deep voice, like I gotta hide my Barbies,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because
So
Bobby is gonna
yeah,
decapitate my
and
Barbies.
it's like very clear that they're trying to like draw out her cuteness just a little bit longer so that they have that feature in it, and then Nikki comes in and saves the day, and she's allowed to grow up suddenly.
And
Yeah,
then she tries to become a pop star.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting.
Another great episode. Another great episode.
So that was a two-parter, right? And that was the
Yeah.
one where like Will gets too overbearing and
Yes.
too involved, and then he ends up living in his office, which the sight of him like hanging up his laundry in a fancy office is kind of burned on my memory. That's what I think of when I think of that episode. That and the shot where Ashley turns into a giant dollar sign singing with the hat on. That's very funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Also, regarding a question about Nikki, I guess I could take a leave, Nikki. You
yeah.
know.
Well, one of your favorite episodes features Nikki pretty prominently, the Dougie the Whale one.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's the exception where Nikki is a necessary part of the Dougie the Whale episode.
So in that episode, you
Okay.
have
Thank you.
uh Will trying to take Nikki. He's trying to be very involved in Nikki's life, and it seems like he's maybe trying to do that so that he can pick up girls because he's got a cute kid with him.
Yep.
And so he's trying to take him to the beach. Nikki wants to go to the mall to see his favorite, I don't know,
It's
life-size
like
puppet. It's like a
a
Barney thing.
Barney,
Yeah.
yeah,
But it was Dougie the
parody.
Whale, and it was this giant orange whale. And
Okay.
so they end up going to the mall, and the guy playing Dougie in the whale costume is like, I mean, it's kind of it's again, it's almost hackneyed, but it was funny the way they did it, where the guy inside the costume is like, he needs a drink, and he's got this gravelly voice, and but he's like entertaining the kids with these whale fins and
Played by
everything.
Coach Sansky from Saved by the Bell.
Very good.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then it kind of culminates in like Will kicking the shit out of him, like
Well,
picking
in
off
the
his
head and
head and like punching him, and then Nikki freaks out. And the whole plot is like Nikki is a necessary feature of it.
well,
So
part of it too is that Carlton's excited to see Dougie
Dougie.
Whale, and he's like standing on on a chair in the crowd, like "We love you, Dougie," and then it's just like they're
Yes.
telling him to sit in the chair like a grown up, and like
Good stuff.
it is very good to Dougie.
Yes. And the Carlton dance, which
Of
Of
course,
we have
course.
to give a shout out to, which is
have to.
actually pretty hard to do.
It's impossible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, Alfonso Ribeiro is like a self-taught professional dancer, pretty much.
Yes.
So like he's
You
just
shouldn't
like,
expect to be able to do it.
no,
It's
no,
advanced stuff.
you shouldn't try.
It's funny that that dance is always associated with "It's Not Unusual," the Tom Jones song, but
Yeah.
I think like Carlton like liking that kind of music is like a common thread, especially in the early seasons where he's listening to stuff like Christopher Cross and what else? The Bobby
Bobby Vinton.
Vinton. Yeah. So like listening to like old man music, it's
Yeah.
just very like cute and
Singing
subtle.
Beach Boys.
Yeah, we were talking about that one recently, because when Brian Wilson died, we listened to like the Beach Boys' greatest hits just as a,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
Pretty festive.
Pet Sounds is like a standard, but like just to like get the full breadth of the Beach Boys experience, we sat down and we listened to, and as a quick aside, like we can think of a sitcom reference for like most of the Beach Boys' greatest hits. I think it's because in the 80s and 90s, like the writers they grew up in the 60s. So in their mind, like the Beach Boys were the
Yeah.
thing, right? Especially if they were Californian people. Anyway,
Right. That
um,
explains the Full House obsession with the Beach Boys.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And so like I get around, there's this one part where like Carlton is arguing with Will and then he's like in the process of leaving the room and he starts singing out of nowhere, really. He's like, round, round, get around, I get around.
Well, it was to juxtapose the fact that they were saying that you can't survive in Compton.
Compton, yeah,
You
yeah.
can. And they start singing. He's like, "I'll survive in Compton, thank you very much." And they start singing "I Get Around" by the Beach
Yeah.
Boys, which
Yeah,
you
that'll
Compton, really, I guess.
Not really, no.
So that oh, there was something else that I was thinking of, but I don't remember. It'll come back to me when we're talking about something unrelated. So we did mention that the show broke the fourth wall a lot, which was one of my favorite parts of the show. I love when shows break the fourth wall and they're like, "Yeah, we know that you know this is
Yeah.
just a
Yeah,
TV
yeah.
show." Um, it's Gary Shandling's show is one of my favorite shows for that reason because the characters are like, "Hey, audience,"
Yeah.
and live on stage. And the two things that come to my mind with that is when the executive goes to Philadelphia, throws Will in the back of the truck, and they show up to California. And then there's one episode, I don't remember which one it was, where Will's like, "If we're so rich, how come we can't afford a ceiling?"
That's
And
what I
then the
thought
camera
of.
pans up.
That's the one. Right, right.
Well, and that kind of is a nice segue for Pete to talk about his favorite episode of anything ever.
Okay.
Because there's a moment where the fourth wall is broken in the very last scene. Would you like to broach that topic?
What we're talking about? Oh, Deaf Poet Society. Yeah. So, like, I think my favorite sitcom episode of any sitcom is Deaf Poet Society. The one where um, Will joins the poetry club to impress a girl, and so he starts writing these poems, and eventually gets in too deep where he makes up the poet Raphael Delegato, and he's like, and it's like it's funny to watch the people of the Bel Air Academy engage and like the poser sort of like, oh yeah, I've heard of Raphael De La Ghetto. He's one of the street poets of South Central LA.
Mr. Fellows.
Mr. Ellis.
He's one
And
of my favorites.
yeah, he's like, oh, I've heard of him. And so like this whole sort of myth created on there, wanting to be hip, and like Hillary's friend Tony shows up, like, I can't believe your school got Raphael De La Ghetto. It just keeps escalating. And so they and in the so Will gets Jazz to tries to hire someone to act like a poet to play Raphael De La Ghetto, but he ends up ending up going to jail for like selling fake Rolexes. And so they're like, what are we gonna do? So they ended up putting an afro wig on Jeffrey, and he pretends to be Raphael De La Ghetto and starts, like, gruffly reading these words that Will wrote, like, listen to the street beat. And it's amazing. And and then like they ask for an encore, and Jeffrey flashes back to his youthful days. He starts to say "cannon to the right of them" because like he flashed back to when he won a poetry contest as a kid. So he blows the whole thing.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, "That was your butler," and then so uh you know, long story short, regarding uh what she was saying, like the episode ends with them laughing about the whole thing, and Ashley asking Vivian if you could hear like a poem, and I don't know what she read or who it was by, but it's obviously something very serious and important.
Yeah.
Then at the end, in terms of the camera, you see if to the audience is like, if you'd like to learn more about poetry, you can reach us at. And he's like, good night, and like, and that's one of the best fourth wall. I mean, again, it's a perfect episode. Nah, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Another fourth wall thing that they did a lot was comparing themselves to the Cosby Show, because there is some like overlap between the broadcast of the two shows, and
Yes.
I think they kind of the Fresh Prince kind of thought of itself as like the next logical step,
Hmm.
and it's true because it was like a little bit more self-aware, and
Yes.
there was like many references to the Cosby Show like throughout, and my favorite was they were all sitting in the living room, and the elder Bankses were talking about something else, and Will was just sitting there quietly reading, and he's like, he screams really loudly, and he's like, he said, oh, on the Cosby Show, the streetwise cousin is going to come to live with the Cosby family. That should be decent. And it's like obviously like pointing to the fact that the Bankses had a streetwise cousin come and live with
Yes.
them as being the entire plot, and it was like an episode of the Cosby Show.
It's always
Yes, it
interesting the
was.
pioneers are wanting to catch up.
Yeah,
You know,
because that move, cousin Pam coming to live with the Cosby Huxtable family, um,
Yes.
was a direct
that happened
reaction.
after Fresh Prince
Yeah,
Yes, it
premiere.
did.
So it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, this seems to be working.
yeah,
Let's revive the series by adding a streetwise niece.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the
And,
Cosby Show.
what's that?
Oh, the Cosby Show.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it was a very hilarious show until the unpleasantness happened, and it
Yeah.
kind of ruined it, didn't it?
Yeah, like it was a great show, and now, yeah.
Well,
Was it Elvin they found working at a Trader Joe's?
Whole Foods,
Yes.
yeah,
Whole
Yeah.
feel
Foods.
bad because like he was just like, look, he's like, 'cause I remember that the actor, I can't remember his name. He was just like, look, it's like most of the people who work in Hollywood have these kinds of jobs where it's like you're not constantly working, so you need to bring money
Right.
in. And so it's like, again, it was whoever like, made a big deal out of it is pretty shitty as far as I'm concerned, you know. Poor
Well,
bastard was,
yeah.
trying to get his bills paid.
Yes, he
Yeah.
was. Oh,
Good
and
on.
I remembered what I was thinking. The Soul Train,
Oh yes.
when they come back for, was it the 40th anniversary, and Viv and had been, Phil proposed to Vivian on Soul Train, and that is also Vivian too. So,
Yeah, it is. That's a great episode. Like we, we were we were recently somewhere we were talking about James Brown. We kept saying James Drown because like that's how
The
the puzzle appears.
yes.
Or Philip is like, Vivian, I love you. Will you marry me? Then Don Cornelius is like, I'm sorry, Philip, that's wrong. The answer is James Brown. And then Jeffrey dressed as Bootsy Collins is outstanding. I don't know if you remember.
Um, I remember Jeffrey wearing a costume. I don't think I realized who he was supposed to be.
Bootsy Collins from Parliament, Funkadelic, George Clinton's collective.
Once you said Parliament Funkadelic, I was like, ah, okay, now I
Yes.
know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they had the whole crew there for the 40th anniversary, and then
Mhm.
they all danced, And
Yeah.
like the entire episode's like Phil doesn't want to go, but Vivian does, and they really want to, and
Will
he like
brings in that guy to
surprises
like
her.
help Will like Phil get his groove.
Yes, and I I
Dilly
don't
dilly.
Yeah,
I don't know what was going on there.
he's trying to get him, get him in the spirit. We were actually just talking about that episode like a week ago. I don't know. That's what we do. We talk about TV. Secrets to a successful marriage. Just talking about TV.
And I when we were talking about Full House, you hadn't seen much of Fuller House. You watched like the first season. Did you watch any of Bel Air?
I haven't. She's like a bit. She's been more open to it. I just don't see the point. I just I don't know. I don't care.
And I haven't gotten around to it. We did watch the reunion though, which was awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
but
yeah, yeah. They brought everyone back except James Avery, of course, and they both Vivians.
Yeah, both Vivians were there, and Will and Janet Huber Witten sort of had a
yes,
yeah, they made peace, which was nice.
yes.
One thing
Uh,
they talked about on that that I liked a lot was Karen Parsons, who played Hillary.
mhm.
Like she raised the concept that the writers tried to do something with her character that she didn't particularly think was necessary and kind of counterproductive. And you can there is one part, and I have to bring up a holiday episode because
It's your
Fresh
favorite.
Prince has the best holiday episodes.
That's fine.
Yeah. So there is the second Christmas episode, they all go, like, including the other aunts. They go to a cabin in Utah for
Mhm,
the holiday, and they get robbed, and all of their presents and their tree and their food and everything gets stolen.
mhm,
And toward the end they start like talking about how they're going to be less
They're
materialistic,
making
blah 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 blah.
resolution.
They're making resolutions basically after they've had this experience together. And Hillary says, I'm going to try to be more like my aunts, who are strong, warm, powerful black women, or something to that degree.
yes,
And according to Karen Parsons in the reunion, the writers were trying to give her a little bit more depth, like the Hillary character, not making her just like an airhead or whatever, trying to make her like more activisty. And she kind of fought against that, saying like we don't have to like pigeonhole, like let her be who she is, as opposed
yeah,
to like, trying to make her worth anything. And I think that was definitely the right call.
Well, it explains too why that part seems so awkward.
Odd, yeah,
Like
and out of
where did
place,
that
like
come from?
why,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Although funny, like, and it didn't occur to me until now that there's this connection, is like in the very early episodes, Hillary, in addition to being materialistic and bubbleheaded, is also kind of like a phony activist. Like she,
yes,
yeah, she does a lot of things like save the Everglades and like, clean air awareness while riding in a giant diesel powered bus, like
this
things like that, like showing
is like
yeah,
the like Hollywood tendency toward performative
yeah.
activism.
yes,
And then they tried to make it real, I guess, and it
yeah. That
didn't do
work.
it. Yeah.
I don't know. Hillary can do no wrong. Always
What
has
about
done.
her talk show?
Huh?
What did you think of her talk show? She had that for a while.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, uh,
It was cute.
yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, like I said, uh, Hillary can do no wrong. Um, but I guess so. And there was a dynamic of her working with Will, um, which is funny. Like, it's interesting how, like, as the series went on, Will's stock almost went down, whereas, like, you know, Carlton was going to go to this fancy Eastwood college, and Hillary had this show, and actually was going to be a model,
Yeah,
and Will's just like at home, and I always sort of wondered how they got there.
Yeah.
Like, he was sort of like shit on when he was like working with on the Hillary show, And
He was kind of a stepchild when he was working at the Peacock. Like he
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like slid into like just being kind of a loser. And many of the sixth season episodes just has him being bored. Like he's just
Yeah.
bored, and he like occasionally gets into like mischief, and it gets very
I, I don't know
slapsticky.
if like they were just sort of like, okay, we need to focus on reality. The fact this is upward mobility and education is actually going to pay off for the Banks kids. Not so much for Will, but
Yeah.
Right. Though Jazz sticks around and still gets thrown out the
yes, yes,
Banks house.
Yeah, I don't know like how obvious it is, because when I first started watching it as an adult, I was unaware of the fact that they were using the same footage of Jazz
Yes.
being thrown out the door. And I slowly started to notice that it's like, did they just keep the same? And like eventually Jazz's hair changes. One that we were watching like the other day.
yeah. He got
Uh
rid of the flat
he
top,
got rid of
and
the flat
yeah,
top, but when he
so
gets thrown out of the house, he's still got the flat top.
Yeah,
Wearing the same
you
shirt
can
that he was wearing.
yeah,
you can
no,
tell
I
based
mean,
on what shirt he's wearing.
Yeah.
yeah, he's always wearing that shirt. They
You know
always make
he's gonna
sure to
get
wear.
thrown out. He's wearing that shirt.
Yeah, it's 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 great moments in television. Jazz being thrown out of the house.
It wouldn't
But
be the Fresh Prince without it.
No,
no, no,
absolutely not.
no.
Yeah.
And we also have to mention Queen Latifah's 2 roles in the show, since we
Cool.
did mention Tyra Banks.
Yeah, yeah. Queen Latifah playing the friend who he was embarrassed about because he was overweight, and then also Hillary's boss.
Yes, who
Yeah,
treated Hillary like garbage.
yeah. I can't think of the name of the character.
Melissa something?
Oh, yeah, it was Melissa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She loved Will.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
She kept calling Hillary the wrong name, my favorite of which was Hickory.
yeah. Melissa Redmond.
Thank you.
Yeah, and yeah, that was the final episode of the perfect first season.
Really, that one was?
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
And that leads to season 2, episode 1, Earthquake, starring Gina from Martin. I can't think of her name off the top of my head.
I'm not that familiar with Martin.
Pretty Martin was a pretty wild show.
Tisha
Is it
Campbell?
huh?
Tisha Campbell, yes, thank
Tisha
you.
Campbell, yeah, very good.
I'm looking at her and she looks very familiar, so I'm trying to figure out what I know
She's
her
been in
from.
a lot of things. I
Yeah,
think like a lot of Black actresses during that time,
She was in House Party.
there was only like a handful of them who were like actively working, and they got recycled in a lot of roles.
Has to be best known for Martin though.
Yeah, I think so.
she was also in 2 of that. She was in House Party as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But Martin probably would be the one. Um, oh, she was on Cousin Skeeter, My Wife and Kids.
Yeah, with Damon Wayans. Yeah, that's right. That was a good show.
So, yeah. So she was, like you said, on a lot of things that you've seen her in something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Is there anything else you want to add? I think we've covered a lot of ground.
It's been a good experience
Good.
talking. I don't know, is there anything that you forgot to bring up that is that is important to this discussion?
Are you talking to me?
Either.
I'm looking at my notes and
Well, okay, all right. Let's
yeah.
do this then. Letting Go of the Fresh Prince, the
Okay.
song that Pete wrote about letting go of the Fresh Prince. That was written like 100,000 years ago, back when Will Smith was on the cusp of being known primarily for his acting career. And I think at
Okay.
that he was probably the best paid actor in Hollywood. Like it was post Independence Day. He
Yeah.
was this
Wild
like
Wild West time.
right, ideal action star in like a lot of high and my how far we've come, have we? Like 2 years ago, he was the scum of the earth because he slapped Chris Rock in the face at the Oscars.
And then won
And
an Oscar and got banned from the Oscars.
Oscars, yes,
Well, he
yes.
got his Oscar after he stopped Chris Rock.
Right.
Very good.
And so just the other day we were driving back from New York and we were getting a little bit tired of listening to whatever we were listening to on the radio, so Pete put on Howard Stern, which we like to listen to every so often, and they were talking. Howard Stern has this interesting obsession with Will Smith. I don't know what it is, but he's like low-key obsessed with. Anyway, he was talking about like Will Smith trying to revitalize his music career. Now, Will Smith is what, 55, 57 years old now?
I think something about
Yeah, something like that. And his new hit single, which was not a bad song, was about how he likes pretty girls, which is like, oh, yikes. And so, like, I mean, I guess this is Will Smith like trying to find a route towards staying relevant. And again, the music is still fine. It was like a good enough pop song, but he clearly I don't think that he's found his way quite yet. So it's another layer to letting go of the Fresh Prince, I suppose.
Well, again,
Yeah.
there was a song as sort of like this true but also tongue in cheek, sort of like, like I was trying to express all the pain and suffering I was going through, obviously, through this trial of mine. But it's about, like sort of like how I sort of like I love Fresh Prince, and it's like I would love to keep Will Smith in just that category, as opposed to the action movies, because Will Smith, like that show was kind of like subversive, and I
And
sort
the
of
music at that time also is very specific to that time.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so like I wanted to sort of keep that, in the way that we all sort of like to keep our idealized version of something we like, uh, alive within us, and so that's the brave story of that song.
Well, Will Smith also did a gangsta rap album at one point.
Did he?
Yeah.
Are you thinking of MC Hammer?
No.
I'm trying to think. Will Smith did a gangster rap album? I might have to
Look into this.
differ
Yeah.
well, differ with you on that. I don't think I'm not sure. I remember like I apologize if we're looking at this up. I apologize if I'm
Yeah.
wrong.
I think I mean,
I think he
It
did.
doesn't surprise me because he always prided himself on not like cursing in his songs, because he wanted his mom to be able to listen to his music. So the
Right.
story goes. So it doesn't sound right to me. So but no one expects
I'm trying to find it because I remember reading it, but I do not.
it seems like it was recent, no? Or was it like when gangsta rap was like quite popular? 2016. Let's see. Okay.
Um,
I
let's
think
see.
this is ill-advised attempt at gangster rap.
Yeah, that's
rip juggling band called Little Bitch. My traffic relation. That was they're joking. Is on the home base record.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because I had that tape. Don't wait. Don't go. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Will Smith.
yeah. I swear I read somewhere. Am I think? Let me look at the Hammer gangster rap album.
See. Okay, this is a joke.
It's yeah, so it was
They're talking about this song on home base called the main album of that era, home base, called "You Saw My Blinker." I remember because I had the tape, and
Yeah,
he's like to a woman in a car. It was like, "You saw my blinker, bitch." Like, in other words, he gets like mad at someone for like running into his car.
right.
That was not gangster rap.
I could be getting my wires crossed
I think
because
you're wired across.
because
that was
the MC Hammer gangster rap is certainly worth talking about.
Thank
Like
you. Thank you. Yeah.
that is very funny.
Yeah. No. No. Yeah. No. Sorry and relieved to know that there is a woman. So you're a goddamn liar.
There's there okay. There's definitely something. Okay, then yeah, then I'm mixing multiple people up then.
To be fair, like there are some like think piece articles on the internet just from this like quick search that seem to point to that, but I think it's either people taking things out of context just to like have a clickbaity headline. That's my guess.
Yeah, because Will Smith is always like I don't swear in my out. Like he would
Yeah.
say that.
No, I know what you're saying. That's why I'm like, what? Where did this come? It's
I think. Well, like
the
I
same
think it.
part of my brain that doesn't
Well,
remember.
like after the whole Millennium, like bloated sort of album he came out with, he sort of like returned to his roots, like with a street album, but it was not like gangster rap. It was more like his version as best as he could of like backpack hip hop, like Tribe Called Quest
Okay.
kind of thing, but not gangster rap.
Okay, then that might have been
And
where
maybe
I
what
got.
you're thinking of.
I think
Yeah,
that might be where I got my wires crossed.
it's okay. We all get our wires crossed sometimes. That's what we're here for.
There,
To entangle
yeah.
the affairs.
I can't know everything. That's
It's
why
true.
we
It's
have
true. That's why you
guests.
bring in experts like us. That's fine.
Exactly.
Specialists, if you will.
Specialist,
Like
yes.
experts, prodigies.
Yeah.
You're going with Prodigy?
I'm going with prodigy. Yeah, the
Okay.
Fresh Prince prodigies.
So, yeah, I think that is all I really have. I mean,
Yeah,
just
where do you go from there?
right. Will Smith
Solid
just got
television.
weird. Just got weird, like I don't need to know about the entanglement. And in some ways, I kind of get what Howard Stern is getting at, but it's like I don't care that much. Like it's fascinating, like the entanglement, and are they cheating? Are they out polyamorous? Like what is going on here? But it's
Yeah,
like
I don't care either. Like it's their business and just like
it's like
Howard Stern, like that's his thing. He just like stays home and like he's just like a really bored, 71-year-old, and he just like obsesses over these old things and
yeah,
like
it's still pretty funny to listen to
oh
sometimes,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. It's better than how I was in the 80s. Like, it's more like, again, like he was more center right when he was younger, and now he's center left,
yeah.
and he's a lot more pleasant to listen to and
100%.
funny. Yeah,
Right. Now you're like, "Oh, he's not a horrible human being."
yeah,
No,
yeah.
just
He was one of those.
an old man. Yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah,
was one of those that switched around the time of W.
yeah.
Yeah, one of those cases. Like my parents.
Hmm.
That was when they switched.
Hmm.
Good for them.
Hey, uh, on that note, thank you, Pete and Mary Alice, for joining me on GFib. Is
Or,
there anything you want to promote or we should know about?
uh, our next show is
Yes,
in
it's in
Delaware.
Wilmington. So your local pals are not too far from it. We're playing at the Queen on July 10th
Mhm.
with a band called Glitter Porn. We're very excited for it. And we're gonna
Okay.
spend Friday afternoon trying to find something worthy of looking at in Wilmington, Delaware. So
Good luck with that. So, what was the date
Wait,
on?
huh?
July
What,
10th.
Yeah.
July 10th.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thursday, Night at the Queen in Wilmington, Delaware.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So this will go up before July 10th. So just wanted to
Yay!
make sure.
So we expect at least 53 people to come because of this.
Right.
Because of it. Okay. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't actually know anyone local to Wilmington because Brooklyn's actually closer to me.
Really? I thought, are you in Philly or?
No, I'm in Central Jersey.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, you thought Philly because Adam.
Adam, yeah, yeah.
Yes. No, I'm
Where in
about
Central Jersey are you?
what?
Where in Central Jersey are you?
Jackson by Six Flags.
Okay. My family's from the Trenton area. So like
Okay.
my mom and aunt like the Princeton Pennington area and my dad from Ewing. So
Okay. So yeah, the Trenton area is fairly close to me.
yeah, cool.
So now you know
Yeah.
about Philadelphia. At
Yeah.
Adam at work. So thank
Bits in
you.
Philadelphia? Like question marks?
Yeah.
That episode.
Yeah, so this another thing is that we actually did go visit those basketball courts that are featured in the opening credits. They're still there, and they look fairly similar to how they did.
Kidding. So now that we've ended on the Philadelphia note, thank you again, Pete and Mary Alice. And until next time, this is Allison Lips for Greetings from the Idiot Box. Remember, television is a medium, neither rare nor well done. Bye.
I